Welcome to Chaotic Harmony. My name is John.
This is Crystal. We talk about the joys and the challenges of teaching music in the elementary school classroom.
We share struggles, we brainstorm solutions.
And we would love to have you join us.
Welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Harmony. You can't see us anymore. Sorry about that, but you know what? Life happens.
Somebody forgot the extra batteries for the camera.
We're learning how to take things on the road. It's a process.
It's okay.
But as you might have heard, we still have some familiar voices.
We do.
So we have Nora and Darlene still with us.
Hi, guys.
Hello. We're still here.
Knock, knock. It's us.
We never left.
We just finished our last episode talking about burnout and such, and I think, which I feel like it kind of goes into like what I wanted to bring up next. I noticed, Darlene, speaking of the things that you've been speaking for, thanks to the socials and just you being awesome as well.
Yeah.
I've noticed you're taking to the streets SEL a lot lately. Mm-hmm. So first off, well, actually no, forget it. The second off, I think it's obvious to us, but for you, why is social emotional learning not just important for the student but for the teacher?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is something I also mention in a lot of my workshops is like I could give you all the tools in understanding why SEL is important, how to use it with your kids, but if you're not doing these skills yourself, then what the heck?
Yep.
Well, it's also the same thing as like being a music teacher. Like if you don't know how to do music, I mean, that's such a vague way of explaining it, but if you don't understand the way we process music, how else are you going to teach it?
Right.
So like you can't really, teach someone how to read if you can't read yourself.
That's right.
And it feels so self-explanatory, but I think teachers think, oh, like I'm already doing this. Well, yes, but it's also like, do we explicitly know why this is self-awareness? Do we explicitly know why these are helping kids with responsible decision making? I see that you have a thought coming.
You're seeing a lot of good stuff, but I just for our listeners, and also just because I feel like SEL, especially to people who are not in the educational realm, even though our listeners are most people in the educational realm, it's people have conflated SEL with a lot of other things, which has been very fascinating. So can you, in your own terms, what is SEL?
Right. So SEL stands for Social and Emotional Learning, and a lot of the research behind it was done by Dr. James P. Comer, who did a lot of research examining the relationships of why students weren't doing well in their academics, and he saw that, there are some connections with what was happening at home and at school. So he really embraced the whole child approach. So this was happening from the 60s to 80s, and a lot of his research really influenced the social emotional learning that we know now, which is developed by CASEL, this academy that's focused on that. And they came up with 5 different, I guess, like competencies or different focus points. And that's how we can easily explain it and define it for people. But really, it's just about teaching students to be in tune with who they are, their emotions, knowing in their definition, how to manage their emotions, how to work with others. Some of the misunderstandings is just like the focus on just emotions. Like, is this happy or sad? I'm like, okay, that's just one very small element. Maybe not as much focus on being aware of social norms of other cultures, like going up that next step. So I think, at least from my perspective, and my perspective is also growing as I'm, learning more about SEL through music teacher's lens, is seeing that it's been kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, goodness. Like...
Diluted?
No, it's just kind of like...
Diluted?
Yeah, I guess, diluted in a way. Because I also understand the other side, where teachers already have so much to do.
Yep.
And so I guess my focus now is how do I try to simplify this, but also... push students, or not push students, but push teachers to still be critical about any new buzzword that we hear.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to find that because it really depends on the teacher, their time, how they value like moving forward with education, because students are always changing. So education has to follow suit. So that's kind of like the little soapbox
There's a lot of misunderstanding about what SEL is right now. Right. And I was talking to somebody, an older person, like talking to them about what SEL is and how I incorporate it in my classroom. And I saw the light bulb come on, and he said, "Oh, you're talking about citizenship." I was like, "Sure. If that works for you." Like, he's in his 80s. So when he was in school, citizenship was how they learned how to be good humans, and how to get along with other people.
That's
a different word. Now,
and also different focus almost.
Sure. Well, but when we say citizenship, we think about like voting. We think about, like being a good citizen of the United States. He thought about citizenship as like, as being a good citizen of society. Like, I'm going to treat everyone that I meet with kindness and respect.
Fair.
Yeah. I was like, interesting.
But that's also through a different lens.
It is.
Like, whose definition of citizenship and like whose social and cultural norms are we having students like conform to, which is the approach that I try to encourage people to see is like, okay, SEL is wonderful, but maybe someone's definition of it is different from someone else's, and just because I have my own ideas of self-management doesn't mean it's going to work with every single student. So there's been this sort of like one size fits all, and for me, some of the feedback that sometimes I've gotten is like, "Oh, Darlene, you didn't really give a lot of practical examples." And I'm just like, I don't know your students. Like I'm not the teacher. I will give you ideas on what to do, but I'm not the one who knows your students. Like, you know it. So I'm sorry for not giving you practical examples, because I'm not trying to Right. I'm not like, SEL shouldn't be also like copy paste. Nope. Right. We're meant to take ideas and lessons that we see online or on TPT and modify them. Correct. Yeah. Because SEL isn't a script, and I think that's the tricky part, because teachers are tempted to just be like, I don't have a lot of time, I don't have any prep time, I just have to follow this and see what happens. Right. So I also understand that part. So it's a lot of different things.
That's hard. Yeah.
When I was mentioning the conflation, I remember I was at a certain board meeting, and like, no, I'm actually it was a different route, like where these parents were like, I'm tired of this CRT and SEL, and like, it's like, wait, those are different categories.
Right.
It's like, wait, hold up.
Completely different.
You don't understand, sir.
Right. So there's a miseducation, like, from parents too.
There is.
And so, like, is it our responsibility as teachers to educate parents as well, or is that like a bigger system? Something like, because if we want parents to also be on board with what we do we, like, is that the administrator's job to do that? Because, oh gosh, the answer is, so many things.
I feel like the answer is all the above, yes. And also the parents' job to also do the job as well. Right.
But if they disagree, if somebody, like, let's say someone is doing SEL through a one-size-fits-all lens, like, it will make sense if it doesn't work with that student population. So then, whose fault is that? Is it the teacher's fault for, not really being trained in the SEL that fits with that school culture? But, it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
Try not to say way too much.
I mean,
we could go so many places.
Part 3 will be coming out right next
week. Well, thankfully for that portion, we only have to drive 1 hour instead of 2.5 hours.
Okay.
And LA traffic is not.
Or maybe we'll drive down to San Diego this time.
And also tacos al gordo,
Yes.
Just saying.
Oh my God,
we'll just record a podcast there.
Okay, actually, no. So I know we're doing hard right turn right now, but you asked me on the podcast what my favorite food is, so might as well ask you all.
Oh,
okay, all right.
Yeah. We'll do a little fun thing right now.
Let's start with Nora. What's your favorite food?
Okay, besides Mexicano. Oh, I think I said it earlier.
I was on the podcast.
That's so true. So I love Korean barbecue.
Okay.
It's my favorite.
Oh man. Ramen.
That sounds good right now.
Yeah, ramen.
And I'm very picky about my broth too.
Oh.
Like, it needs to be creamy.
I have a place for you in San Diego.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're ending the podcast now. We're gonna leave. We're gonna
go. Yeah, it's like cold today. It's like 50.
It's cold.
And that's cold for California.
Yes, that is
cold.
cold.
It's 54.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, where's my parka?
I can't count below 60. What?
It's true. How do you use SEL, Nora, in your classroom? How do you kind of use that lens?
Actually, I have a board right here in my classroom. It says music makes me feel. So one of the things that has helped me through the process of grieving my father. So I know in the other episode I had mentioned that my father passed away, and that is to take some time to just spend in solitude. And sometimes what I do is I journal or I color. I know this is weird, but yes, I
love to color. I have a bunch of coloring books. I'm with you.
So I do have a Bible journal, and like what I do is like I take notes like next to it, and on my journal I just like tend to draw, or sometimes whenever I am organizing something, like my planner, I tend to color code things and so forth. So I've realized that has really helped me, and just like be in tune with my emotions and what is it that I'm feeling. And I'm like, if I'm doing that with myself, I think that can create something for my kiddos. So what I decided to do was, one day we were just talking about like just music, how it makes us feel. So that is how I was like, okay, you know what I should do is like, kids tend to really connect with music with what they listen to. So what I decided to do was buy canvases, little mini canvases, and just distribute it to my kiddos, and I gave them pastel colors. And what I did is I just put like calm music, and I just gave them a very broad prompt. How does music make you feel? And they're like, boy, like, do you want it like in our classroom? And I'm like, you do whatever you like. And for 30 minutes, the kids were just drawing, and they were just so creative that they were like, Miss Hernandez, this was my favorite lesson like of all time. And I was like, but I didn't teach you anything. But then at the same time, I was like, no, but I did teach you at the same time to be in tune with your emotions and display it on like through a painting, and also just for them to like take time for themselves to really process what they're listening to. So so that was a very that. And so then I just decided to just display a board of their canvases, and
they're adorable.
Yes,
they're so little.
And then I know it's so cute, then it's just like that is like their creative way of expressing themselves, how music makes them feel. And then through that, I was like, you know what? Like, what I'm going to create is a safe place for these kids. So I open my doors, and the kids are welcome to eat with me during lunch or recess, obviously with boundaries. They're only allowed to come in my classroom Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. Tuesday, Thursdays, and Friday, and that's it. You know, Mondays and Wednesdays are for Miss Hernandez. It's so neat to just. I also created a listening lab, and the kids just come and they just listen to music, and they're just hanging out. They don't talk. They're just sitting, processing what they're listening to, and I'm like, hey, if that helps them, then good, because music helps me, drawing helps me. Why not create that safe place? So all the kids love coming to my classroom because they literally say that they feel peaceful, that it's a safe place for them, and it brings them joy. And it has come to the point that some kids, they just come to me and they're like, Mr. Hernandez, can I talk to you? I'm like, sure. And then they start telling me what they're going through. So I think it's just like, if I'm taking this time to really be in tune with what emotions I'm going through personally, then I've really set boundaries with like friends, with family, also just like in every aspect. And my family has told me this. It's like, Nora, you're so good with boundaries. I'm like, yeah, because or else I would be insane. You know what I mean? I really would. So but that's how I do it.
I love that. And you're teaching them by example.
Yes.
It's like what you were saying, Darlene. If you're not doing it yourself, if you're not learning yourself, you're not growing it, you can't teach it. I love that.
I think about also like, it's really cool what you're doing, because my part of my mind goes, okay, with limited time, how am I hitting the standards? But you are still.
It's listening.
It's listening. And the thing is, this isn't exactly correlate, but like, I remember I was at part of this workshop where you can still, like, the standards are met through the games. And even though it's not a game, this is a different activity. And you can still meet the standards through these activities that might not still learn what ta-di-ta are. You can go beyond that scope and still hit the standards. And I think
I love the
It's
national
the
core standards. I love the national core. Darlene, do you want to tell them why I love it?
You should, because it's your thing.
Well, actually, my dissertation topic is about the national core art standards. So it's a qualitative study, and my study is based on studying the elementary music teachers' perceptions of the National Core Art Standards. And one of the fun facts about the National Core Art Standards that they're so broad and they're really around the 21st century. And I love that there's a component there that says their philosophy is grounded in creating a well-rounded music educational program for the kids. And they even involve, like, they don't really say social and emotional learning, but they say well-being. And I think if we go back, we step back, I think it's important for elementary or just an educator, a music educator, to really like think about their philosophy, because the National Core Art Standards are not, how can I say it? It's not European, like the Western European focused. It's more like the whole child,
right?
And so I think it's definitely shifting, and we have to be very open to it, because a lot of people are like, yeah, well, we don't need social and emotional learning in music. I'm like, no, it evolved. It's all about that. It's like, if you take the time to really know their kids and what they're into, that you can really contribute to that, to their growth. So I think, so I love the National Core Art Standards. I don't know if I'm biased, but I think I'm doing a whole dissertation of it. So
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah,
That's good.
I think it's needed. We had somebody come visit our school a couple years ago from Sacramento, who's like a part of the national board of education. Yeah. And he was asking us, how do you do in music class with the creating strand of the standards? Because he was like, that's the biggest struggle is teachers across the state really struggle with that. I was like, well, I'm an ORF teacher. Like that's not hard. We create every single time. But you're right. It's not cookie cutter. And that's why I think people misunderstand and they struggle with it. Yeah. It turns out you got to like be relevant to your kids.
Yep.
And then your philosophies just sometimes change over time. Like I was thinking about, like when Nora was talking about, I'm going to do the, do my little dissertation on these standards. I'm like, So I even took a glance at them and I realized I was like, oh my gosh, like if someone were to look at this with like, no, I want my standards to say students will be able to perform and clap a quarter or whatever,
right.
They will have the hardest time with these standards. And then it makes me think, well, someone with a different kind of philosophy of elementary music education will of course have a hard time with this. And then I also think about, well, like what is one's definition of creating? Is it creating like out of nothing, like literally nothing, or is it creating with what you're given? And what is our role as teachers when we are creating? Are we just being like, okay, kids, like run with it? Or are we giving them tools so that they feel successful every step of the creative process? And I also think about, well, did our teacher prep programs really show us what creating looks like?
No.
No improvisation lessons?
I'm sorry, I just spiked the mic.
That's okay. I'm looking at all the walls right now. I think everyone has spiked the mic once.
Okay.
So.
It's a very passionate conversation.
Teacher prep programs.
I feel like there BT dubs. We are actually, that should be one of our last episodes of the season. We are going to revisit that, and we would love to have people actually respond to like a post. So if you want to keep your eyes peeled for that, because
we did an episode not that long ago about things we didn't learn in our credential program.
I listened to it while I was on the Stairmaster this morning. I was like sweating bullets. I'm like, I so agree. I so agree. As I was like, do I have 10 more minutes?
there's a lot here.
There is a lot here.
I'm looking right now at the clock.
Okay.
There is one more section I would like to go over, but I also know we still have our spiccato and our rounds.
Okay.
Do we want to hit this up today?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's finish the conversation.
Okay.
Knowing we got like 5 or 10, so keep it semi-brief.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what
happens.
So I mentioned earlier that I was on your podcast, and also did a two-parter.
I'm single pattern.
And we talked a lot about cultural representation. When I was a guest, like one of the questions you asked me was, well, you not even asked me, it's like you said, race is important. That was a very bold statement. And so Nora and Darlene, like you being PBIA individuals, like when you were growing up, so one of the questions you asked me, I want to give it back to you.
The gift.
I know. When you was there a moment in your music education where you felt that your culture was represented?
Just one little itty bitty moment.
No.
Wow.
In my music education.
Formal.
And when I
music
say
education.
represented, I mean, again, when we talked on
Yes.
the last episode, I'm not talking about La Cucaracha. Like,
Yes, yes.
I'm talking about like you felt seen. Because I remember when I was at Orff Conference 2019, was it? What was the one where we were? Yeah, 19. It was before COVID.
Where we
When I was in Tiffany
stayed in the
Berry's
haunted house.
session, her lesson, I felt seen because it was Philippine folk music.
Yeah.
It did that, but like I remember back in my culture, as I mentioned in that episode, which you should listen to, by the way. Listen to Color Melody. You should definitely check it out. But was there a moment that you felt seen?
That is a hard question.
In my K-12 educational journey, I would have to say no.
Did it happen at university?
Vaguely, and that was music history with Mr. Owen. Shout out to him. Yeah, because we had to do like a presentation of our culture. So I feel like
Okay.
they opened a safe place for me to share, but actually me learning about my culture, no. Yeah. So
yeah.
I guess that's why I'm very intentional
Yeah.
with my curriculum. You know, trying to represent like different cultures because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if I were to remember feeling like I was seen, it would be like a pivotal moment. I mean, not the only thing, but one of the earliest things I can think of is, I say one of my high school choir teachers because I went through 3 different ones. So this particular high school teacher came in like as almost like a long-term sub, and he's half Filipino, but I mean, but like it's not like he also taught like Filipino music or anything.
Right.
He's not like fluent in Tagalog, and just, you know, I mean, but also most of the student population at the high school was also Filipino, so it's like, okay, all right. But then like thinking of my undergrad, I mean, I didn't study Philippine music and music history. Yeah. So actually, I do remember, I think it was after I graduated, one of the choirs, they decided to choose a program of Philippine music. And I thought it was interesting how I'm like, wow, I graduated, I'm not here, and they've decided to do it all. And it was all in different dialects, things like that. So I couldn't even, I mean, I'm not fluent in Tagalog, but I know like very basics. But I've also noticed that sometimes they would mention the different dialects and things like that. But that was one example of where I kind of felt seen. But I also noticed like, okay, but there isn't really anybody in this choir who is Filipino.
Yeah.
So then I also, I mean, maybe there was, and I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like there was a huge population of them. So then I also felt seen, but also a weird disconnect at the same time.
Okay.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't
No.
want to cut you off. Okay, it's like then in what ways? I know
Processing.
you kind of shared a little bit like in tidbits in the last episode, but like in what ways do you try to have your children be seen amidst the different cultures? Because you mentioned that you are not Vietnamese. So how do you try to extend your hand to them essentially?
Yeah, he'll have my students feel seen, or
Yes.
like have me feel seen. Oh, okay.
No, students. They don't care about you.
Oh yeah, they don't care about me. They're just like, I'm just our teacher. Well, it first starts with like really breaking, at least for me, for one of the schools, really breaking the typical Asian stereotype. That could mean like, oh, I don't know, all Asians play violin or something like that. Like some really interesting stereotype like that. And really finding, well, thinking, of course, first of all, I don't want to like lump all, of course, Asian folks
Of
into
course.
one, you know,
Monolith.
category. Yeah, exactly. But also like finding different Asian representation, thinking like, okay, because we really don't see a lot of that, especially in pop music, things like that. So one way I've slowly been doing that is finding, you know, pop artists that are Filipino or of Asian descent, so that I really highlight them. Sometimes I find like music producers, sometimes that maybe the students have never heard of, and I'm like, hey, let's talk about them because they're breaking barriers too. So I start off with that. I also use a lot of storybooks. written by Asian authors too.
Okay.
One recent one that I've added was one by Alice Soy called We Are Golden.
Yep.
And she immediately addresses the stereotype of being called yellow, which was a term not given by Asians themselves,
Nope.
but definitely meant to, in a way, degrade
harm.
the Asian
Yes.
community. And we even talked about that in my class because, you know, where else, I mean, students may not have that conversation in other classes.
Sure.
Not saying that is my ultimate responsibility, but at the same time, if I have an opportunity to teach that, I'm going to do it because I want to show students that, hey, like you know, to have that knowledge and to realize this is a form of racism, and how do we, you know, also reframe that. And the way I love how Alice took that word and
Turned
she turned it around into golden instead. And we even talked about what is golden, what reminds you of being golden, and not really focusing more on the negative aspects of that, because I think that's the common mistake with teaching in an anti-racist lens, is you only focus on the negative and then wah, wah. But then you really can just turn around and, you know, really fight that with, I don't want to say toxic positivity, but with
hope.
Yeah,
Almost.
with hope,
Yeah.
with affirmations.
Affirmations, yeah.
Yeah, which is what
it kind of
Alice
reminds
does,
me
yeah.
of like reclaiming, you know,
Yes,
I'm
there
thinking
you
about
go.
like body acceptance stuff. And so like reclaiming words that are hurtled as insults.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what she said. Yeah, reclaiming. So yeah, representation in, you know, materials and
Yeah.
who we talk about, who we choose to talk about too.
The intentionality of what you give the students.
Right. Because they'll remember.
And you only have 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
It's crazy.
That's wild. Again,
that is wild.
like, cool. It's like social emotional learning, cultural representation. Ta-ta-ta-do-ta.
And it's possible.
Yeah.
And if I really had to
Yeah.
break it down, like some people are like, really, darling, how you do this? And it really, like, if I had a formula, I mean, not saying everybody should do this, you start with your hello song,
Yeah.
you prepare students for the book, you read the book, find something musical to do with it, tapping a steady beat, maybe teach a simple ostinato, whatever. Have students like talk about the book, every discussion, find a song that pairs well with that book, that ties with whatever musical concept you're going over, whether it's rhythm, melodic, you're done. There you go.
From what it sounds like, it seems like it's doable, but you have to be intentional.
Right.
Yeah.
Extremely intentional. And of course, like, you know your students best. Like, if I have a class that's very like, oh gosh, they cannot sit well for a book, then, you know, you adjust. Maybe you read a section of it, or maybe you skip a few pages. But, like, it's possible. Yeah.
It's possible. It's needed. And I think, yeah, it's possible. It's needed. I think I mentioned this also on your podcast earlier. Like, yes, quarter notes and eighth notes, they don't see the things that the kids see. But that doesn't mean that the kids who sing those quarter notes and eighth notes don't. I'm speaking in a lot of abstract terms. It's important to still address it nonetheless, is I think what I'm trying to say. Because so many people, I feel like teachers try to avoid that topic because, well, it's music. It's, you know, it's colorblind. You know, it doesn't really have to do. But the kids are the ones who are evoking the music. So it still is needed. So cool.
You can't separate music from the people who made it. Of course, music's
No.
not colorblind. That's ridiculous.
Not yet.
Who said that?
There's that notion. There is that notion.
Oh, I'm ready
There
to
is that
fight
notion.
'em.
But no, seriously, I think I'm glad you were able to break it down because you're right. It's doable. It just takes some thought. Cool. Thanks so much. Do you have any questions for us?
Where do you want to eat for dinner?
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah,
Cool,
it's
cool, cool.
coming.
We're huge foodies. So
Speak-
we're huge foodies. So.
Yes.
Like, I feel like I have my music teachergram, and then you know, well, for me, like, I have the 3 Instagram accounts on my, because, you know, and sometimes I'll just forget which story I'm posting
Oh,
to. 'Cause
it's
and I'm just like, whatever. And then
Yeah,
I'm
the
just
struggle
like,
is real.
wow, half of the things I post on my stories are just food. Teacher account. Oh, well.
It's all good.
Well, everyone's going to know that I like to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up. But also what's coming up is our Spiccato. So
Okay.
After the
After the break.
I want to take a quick break and thank my husband, Bryan, who's been working behind the scenes producing these episodes every week on all of the platforms and on time. But you need to know that he is first a financial planner for Mission Trails Financial. Mission Trails Financial is a partner that seeks to guide clients in the journey to financial success. They believe that people need a financial advisor that aims to provide strategies for success. Mission Trails Financial helps people navigate investments, tax planning, and insurance. Imagine working with an advisor who isn't tied to specific brands. Mission Trails Financial has a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of their clients by providing independent, objective advice. Their mission is to help clients accomplish their financial goals. As Joe Vitale once said, a goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. Do yourself a favor and set up a time to chat with Mission Trails Financial. Visit www.missiontrailsfinancial.com or call 619-419-0238 to schedule a call. You'll be glad you did. We believe that leaning on professionals is how we get ahead. Check out the program notes for more information.
Welcome back, and you know what's going to happen. We're going to do a hard left turn. Thank you so much for listening. If the video is on, you can see Darlene turning a hard left. Once again, we met these people because these lovely ladies, because we communicated through they were listening to us, and this community grows by you hitting the like. So please make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube, also leave us a review. It helps us grow as a community, and we only accept 5 stars. If you send less, I will sniff you out.
Sniff.
And possibly poke you on Facebook.
Oh.
Yes.
Sniff and poke?
Oh, man. That's them's fighting words.
Anywho, and make sure you also find us on YouTube and subscribe there. That way our community can grow even more, and then we can have more than just Sandra and Jamie be the only ones listening to us.
Yes.
I listen.
Yes.
It's on YouTube?
No, on YouTube?
Oh, not on
That's
YouTube.
the
Sorry.
same. On YouTube.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, I was like, what?
It's fine.
Where's my shout out?
Hey, Darlene. All right. So
We have a spiccato.
Cool. What do we got here?
Today's spiccatos are straws, and you have the cutest little straw dispenser.
You do.
I love that. It's like an old-fashioned ice cream
I feel
shop.
so like I say walk in this class, and I feel like, oh gosh,
It's
this is
very
a lot of
homey.
work for me to do.
I love it. Okay, so I was thinking about back when I first started working for Chula Vista 6 years ago, and how we didn't have any stuff in our rooms at all, so we had like nothing for. I think I taught with no music resources for about 7 months.
Oh.
Didn't even have rhythm sticks yet.
Oh.
Yeah, nothing.
Sad face.
Wow.
Body percussion it was. And so I got a bunch of straws at IKEA, not the bendy ones, just like the normal straight ones, and crepe paper, and we made streamers.
Oh.
And then the kids took them home.
Cool.
Yeah, and they work very effectively. It was so cheap too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't get good budgets.
Oh,
so.
like, yeah. Well, I was teaching close to 1,000 kids at the time, so
wow.
like we had enough to make 1,000 streamers.
There you have it.
And I think I spent $25.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nora, Darlene, what would you do with the straws?
I would use them as like drumsticks.
Yeah. Okay. Rhythm
there you
sticks.
go.
Yeah, rhythm sticks. Yeah.
That would work.
Yeah.
That would be a good practice stick. So sometimes when the kids are not being safe
Yep.
Correct.
with rhythm sticks, I swap them out for something lighter.
Yeah.
I usually use those things that come with the recorders.
Yep,
that
the
are-
recorders.
Cleaning rods,
yeah.
Me
don't do it.
Yeah. Hey, there
There's
you
so
go.
many of them.
Yeah,
And they
seriously.
have to
Yes.
earn to get the drumsticks.
Yes.
So if
there we go.
they show you rest position, ready position, in that self-control, then I give them the sticks.
There
Yep.
you go.
I learned my
There you
bucket
have it.
drumming stuff from Nora.
Yeah.
Yep,
So.
that's right. Otherwise, they get the practice sticks.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Cleaning rods.
Yeah, the cleaning rods.
And then you have those kids who are like, I want them. I'm like, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And you only have to unstuff like toilet paper from a Fipple once before you realize that you never give a cleaning rod.
Seriously, it's a recorder.
Why?
I don't understand.
It's such a waste of. Anyway.
Yeah.
Darlene.
Yamaha at us at.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I could see them being used as like rhythm notation, whatever.
Okay.
So like if you don't have popsicle sticks around, like okay, can you make ta 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 for me? Can you make
go.
a rest with this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she take yours?
No.
Oh, okay.
But that's actually a lesson that I do.
Yeah.
You do.
But no, I was thinking of something I have mentioned on the podcast, but we have different listeners every time, so I'll just say it again. So prior to COVID, when students got recorders, we mentioned how there are 2 reasons why recorders squeak. Ones they don't cover the fingers, the other one's overblowing.
Yep.
I lost my voice in the year of 2018. 2018, the year of our Lord. And so I got a bunch of cups and straw. Oh, sorry, I should backtrack. When I lost my voice, I had an SLP. She worked with me, and and she had me speak into the straw in the water. And it was a way of having some feedback as you're speaking, so that way you're engaging more of your diaphragm as opposed to your vocal cords. And I was thinking as I was doing this, like, this would be perfect for recorders, because you're focused not to overblow. If you don't splash the water out, you keep your water still in the cup and you're blowing into it. That's the same amount of air you'll need for the recorder. And so that way you've had this feedback as opposed to just the squeak back. So.
That's a great way to start off.
Totally.
That is a good way. Yeah. I mean, I haven't done recorders this year because
Same.
COVID.
COVID. Yeah. But that's what I do. So there you have it.
Round of the week.
Round of the week.
What's the round?
What's the round? Okay, so Jonathan and I spent
Yeah.
a lot of time in the car today, and we wrote the song.
Because we drove up to LA.
We did.
We're stuck in
drove to
traffic.
LA.
Okay.
And so here's how it goes. Sitting here in traffic playing uke. Should've stayed in San Diego telling you. What was it? Oh, when you have to drive to LA, what you gonna do? Sitting here in traffic playing uke. Echo me. Sitting here in traffic playing uke. Your turn.
Sitting here in traffic playing uke.
Should've stayed in San Diego telling you.
Should've stayed in San Diego telling you.
But when you gotta drive to LA, what you gonna do?
When you're done and drive to LA, what you gonna do?
When you gotta drive to LA, what you gonna do?
What are you trying to do?
I know my Southern just came out real strong on that last one. Spent some formative years in Alabama. It happens. When you gotta drive to LA, what you gonna do?
When you gotta drive to LA, what you gonna do?
When you gotta.
When you gotta. Spike in the back.
When you got, like, when you have to, like, drive to LA. Okay, shall we try it?
Sure. Wait,
Together?
is this 3 lines?
Yeah, it's only 3.
Oh, okay.
I've always thought it was 4.
I thought
Okay.
it was 4 too.
I started messing around
Okay.
in the
She
car
started
a
improvising.
little bit. It's okay.
Okay.
We're keeping it. All right, here we go.
Mom, pick me up. I'm scared.
Crystal's being weird again. I want to go home. Let's try this. Ready? Sitting here in traffic playing uke. Should've stayed in San Diego telling you. But when you gotta drive to LA, what you gonna do? One more time. Sitting here in traffic playing uke. Should've stayed in San Diego telling you. But when you gotta drive to LA, what you gonna do?
Do you want a 2-part round for this?
Sure. You wanna sing with me?
I barely know the words. I'm like,
I know.
Right,
He's
yeah.
mostly
So,
got him. Okay.
yeah.
Me and Nora, you and Darlene. Ready?
Okay.
2.
Wait,
Here we
wait,
go.
wait.
Me first.
Wait, who's who?
Darlene's with you. Nora's
Okay,
with me.
okay.
The tall girls stay together. You
Yeah.
remember you made that comment?
I did. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes! Team Tall Girl.
Team Shorty.
Sitting here in traffic playing you.
Sitting here in traffic playing you.
But
When you stayed in San Diego telling you. But when you stayed in traffic, what you gonna do? Sitting here in traffic telling you. Sitting in San Diego telling you. But when you
Live in Orange County.
what you gonna do? Huzzah!
That was
I'm a very visual person, so I need the words.
yes, me too.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was great.
The ELL comes on here. Like, I can say that because I am an ELL learner. I pull that card.
Nora, Darlene, where can they, if people want to reach out to you and
Find you on social.
Find you on socials, where can they talk to you? Their
Yeah,
words.
they can connect. Yeah, they can find me, Darlene, at the Darling Music Teacher. on Instagram or TikTok, or they can email me, thedarlingmusicteacher@gmail.com.
And me, you can DM me at miss.nora_h on Instagram.
Woo! You can find me, Crystal, on Twitter at Finny Vappa. You can find me on Instagram at mrs.pridmore, and you can find me at crystalpridmore.com.
And you can find me on all the socials, actually not all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, also YouTube at Mr. Seligman, MrSeligman. You can find also their podcast, at Coloring the Melody Podcast on Instagram. And you can find us at CH Classroom, Classroom, CH Classroom on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at CH Classroom, and also YouTube, at youtube.com/Chaotic Harmony Classroom. Wow. And
I know.
And lastly, please feel free to email us, chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Chaotic Harmony Podcast is a joint project between Crystal Pridmore and Jonathan Seligman. You can find us online at chaoticharmonyclassroom.com. You can email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail and let us know what you think. Give us feedback about what you would like to hear in future episodes. We're on all the socials. Find us on facebook.com/chaoticharmonyclassroom. You can find us on Twitter at CHClassroom, Instagram at Chaotic Harmony Classroom, and you can even find our episodes on YouTube. Chaotic Harmony is the name of our channel. Special thanks to Bryan Pridmore for his help with production and equipment. www.pridmoria.com.
We gotta feed this man. He's glitching.
Oh my gosh.
Wait,
So-
people still poke?
The two of us do.
Right? That's what I said.
We're at 200 right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What?
He
I don't
was
even know
all
how to poke.
excited.
I can help that.